Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Boardmasters with me, Chris Mullins, and in this video I will be reviewing Destinies by Lucky Duck Games, which I've featured a lot in the channel. I have done an unboxing of it, I've done a solo game through play of it, and I've also done a playthrough competitively against Stace, which I will link to all of those down below, although they will all be in the playlist, so if you want to check any of those out, feel free. But let's dive in. As ever, the reviews will be the same sort of 5 categories that I always cover, so art, style and theme, components, accessibility, replayability and gameplay. And I will try and keep this review as spoiler free as possible because, you know, I hate spoilers myself, so I absolutely would loathe it if I spoiled it for anyone else. And let's dive in. So in terms of the art, style and theme, I am very much in love with it. Certainly in the core game, it's basically set in 15th century France. And if you've watched any of my footage before, I think it was the Zombicide Black Plague video unboxing that I talked about how I love anything in that swords and shields, archery era. And this firmly fits into that. But it's 15th century France, but you've got demons, you've got werewolves, it's sort of dark fantasy. The angel of death is coming, and a chosen few are being given the power to basically save the world. And yeah, I just really love that theme. It's dripping throughout the entire game, like with the ability of using the app enables so much flavor text and lore and like even just the musical background in the game. It's just so immersive and I absolutely love all of that. I mean, in terms of the stories of the scenarios, and again, I'll keep them as spoiler-free as it possible, but you're basically dealing with battles between, you know, the standard good and evil, between Christianity and paganism that was rife at that sort of time, and again, all culminating with the angel of death coming down, and whether your deeds are testament to saving the souls of mortals and saving the world. But yes, I absolutely love the theme of this game, and I think the art style is great. Certainly the art on the location cards is gorgeous, and the design of the monsters is really cool as well. I mean, things like werewolves are a bit more traditional, but there are enemies that I haven't dealt with before, like the Rat Kings and the Plague Maiden and things, and they just look awesome. And that kind of takes me on to the components there, because obviously the art design of the enemies comes through then on the miniatures, and the detail on the miniatures is fantastic. I really, really like them. And in general, the minis are wonderful. It's just obviously, as you would have seen in the unboxing, some of them have arrived broken, mainly the bigger ones, but some of the little ones haven't broken, but they look a bit brittle, so I don't know if that's just I got a bad batch or if that's across the board. I certainly haven't heard of any issues across the board with it, so I think in general you're probably safe with that. In terms of the general components, obviously I got all the deluxe stuff, so I've got the playmat, I've got the neoprene player boards, which are absolutely stunning and fantastic quality. But I mean, the dual layered player boards that come in the box, and I assume they're not Kickstarter exclusive and that they'll come in the retailer box, so if you get them retail you may want to check that, but if you get in the dual layer player boards, they are amazing quality as well. So certainly the neoprene player mats probably aren't even needed, they're redundant, kind of similar with the metal coins. I mean, metal coins always feel great, but they're a lot smaller than the cardboard ones, so they almost feel less impressive despite the fact they're metal. And it does have a great insert with the game, which makes putting it away and setting it up much quicker. But again, I'm not sure if that's Kickstarter exclusive, because I missed the Kickstarter. I just came in the late pledge, so I'm not 100% on that. But again, check it out before you buy. I've already covered the minis, but I suppose the main thing in terms of the components is the app, and obviously that's supported by all major devices at the moment. They've said that they will do a web browser version of it, so should the app be discontinued down the line, they will still have access to it through the internet. But I mean, that's talking about probably 4, 5, 6 years down the line at the earliest, so you will have plenty of play out of the game by then, so I don't really see it as much of an issue. But the app does work absolutely brilliantly. It makes... I don't think the game could function as it is without it, with the amount of flavour text, the amount of lore. I suppose there are games that have these massive lore books, and you could do that with this. It's just I think it's a much smoother gameplay experience with the app, so I am a fan of that. And going into accessibility, we sort of covered the setup and time already. With the insert, it's certainly really quick to get going. It takes a bit longer to put it away because the map tiles and the item cards and everything are numbered and have to be in a certain order, so either you have to make sure they go away in the right order, or you have to put them back in the right order when you set it up. So depending how you do it, there's always going to be one of them that takes a bit longer. In terms of the traditional hurdles, it's not the most expensive game. I think you can get the core box in retail for around £40 to £45, and then there are some expansions as well. But I mean, Stace and I have played through the first major campaign, and so that's 5 scenarios, plus we played the first one twice, so we've had 6 games together, plus I did a solo game, so we've had 14 hours worth of play out of the game already, and 14 hours for 45 quid for 2 people is really pretty good in my opinion. It isn't available in retail yet. I believe it is next week or at the end of this week, so just check with your local game store or your website of choice. And yeah, it's very, very lightweight, so it's not, if you're looking for a heavy experience, then you're not going to get it here. It is a lightweight game, and that does need to be stressed. There is plenty of decisions to be made, but they are more about what activities you want to do, where you want to explore, and things like that. There's not a huge amount of resource management going on. Obviously, the app takes care of a lot of the groundwork, and you're just really monitoring your skill levels and your items that you've got in hand and your dice. So it is really, really accessible, and I mean, you don't even really need to teach the game, but with the app it walks you through everything so easily. I think me and Stace were up and running in 30 seconds. It's definitely the quickest, easiest game to dive into that I've experienced so far. In terms of replayability, it's kind of a mixed bag on this one, because on paper it sounds really replayable in that, as I mentioned, you've got 5 scenarios in the core game. Each scenario has 3 characters to choose from, so if you're doing a different character every time, you could play through the scenarios multiple times. But each character gets 2 different destinies, and I'm not 100% because I haven't looked at the destinies of all the characters, but I suspect from the gameplays that we've had that some of the destinies overlap with each other. So out of those 3 characters, there's probably 3 different destinies, but each character has 2 of them. So the likelihood is, if you replay a scenario, even if you pick a different character, you have a decent chance of having that same destiny as you had on your first playthrough, so you may have to make a conscious effort to try the other one, which isn't too big of a problem, but I guess some people may not like that. They may want a bit more natural variety rather than the conscious aspect of it. Other than that, obviously there's the single player, which either has an explorer mode, so there's no pressures, you can just explore it as will and learn the scenarios, and then it has the challenge mode, which basically functions as a time trial, and if you're into that sort of thing, that's going to be a huge amount of replayability, because then you can do all 3 destinies for each scenario in that time trial mode, and that's going to keep you going for a long, long time. And there are obviously expansions, as I mentioned before, that you can buy on top of it, which are going to give you new scenarios, new characters, new destinies, which just add to that, but obviously at an increased cost. And finally, getting onto the gameplay, although it's lightweight, I absolutely adore this game. I love pretty much everything about it. If you follow the channel, you know I did a lot of gameplays of 7th Continent, and I thoroughly enjoyed that game, but one of my main criticisms in the review was that I would have liked a stronger narrative. It's all very vague, and it's just sort of, here's a clue, go and explore the island and hope you live long enough to solve it. And there's an element of that to this game, in that some of the clues and the destinies can be quite vague. So you do need to go and explore sometimes, and just, there are occasions where you just have to stumble across the solution. Although you will always have sort of a light indication of where you can look, or sort of you'll be sent to find a certain item that logically would be in a certain building that you know is in a certain area of the map. So then you'll follow that clue, for example. But some people may find that frustrating. They may want more specific instructions on how to do it, which you're not going to get at times. But yeah, anything that gives me this similar gameplay to the Seventh Continent with a stronger narrative is going to make me very, very, very happy. As has been mentioned a few times, it is lightweight, so you're mainly managing your skill track and you have your number of items, and then you're just making decisions on where you're going to explore, what actions you're going to take, and then resolving those actions either with rolling die or with items that you have in your inventory. And that's pretty much it until one of you gets all the things you need for your inventory and starts your finale. And then that can be quite exciting, because you know you're on the home stretch then, and if you're the other player, the tension ramps up because you know the other player's getting towards the end, so you've got to really put your foot down. But it is definitely possible to win the game even if you start your scenario a few turns after the other player, because Stace beat me doing that. I started my finale I think 2 or 3 turns before hers, but because I was making poor decisions and my skill track wasn't necessarily as high as it could have been, so I was failing dice rolls, she was able to blaze through her finale and beat me, as she often does. But that's really all of it, and as I've said a few times, I absolutely love this game. It's not perfect, but I'm struggling to really think of anything about the game that harms my enjoyment of it in any way at all. I absolutely love it. It's definitely a Game of the Year contender for me already, and I am going to give it a 10 out of 10. As I say, a 10 out of 10, I don't think a 10 out of 10 game does have to be perfect. Anything can have flaws. I don't think there is such thing as a perfect game, but that doesn't mean you can never give something a 10 out of 10. My favourite video game for the last 20 plus years is Final Fantasy VIII, which has one of the worst mechanics you'll ever have, but it doesn't harm my enjoyment of the game. And none of the flaws in this harm my enjoyment of it. So that is the first 10 out of 10 I have given since I got in the hobby. And hopefully the first of many, because if I'm playing a lot of games that I want to give 10 out of 10, so I'm going to be a very happy boy indeed. But that is my review on Destinies, so I will leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. Look after yourself, stay safe, and have a good one. Thank you. Bye-bye now.